Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The wise guys have hit 50. I am one of your hosts. I am the Big Rican on Sports, Mike Martinez. And let me bring in my co host with the most, Mr. JC Blue Note, Jim Credidian. James, when we started this with our high school reunion episode, did you ever think we wouldn't be sick of each other by this point?
Well, I mean, I knew we were going to be sick of each other, but there's a difference between sick and intolerable. I mean, because
That's true.
we're both brush kids, so sickness kind of runs in the blood.
That's very true. And one of us went to brush by choice. So
We're going to
but
start
Jim,
like that, huh?
yeah, we are. So, Jim, it is a special night. It's our 50th episode of The Wise Guys. We've been talking about it for a couple weeks. So, for 50, I figured we needed to go a little special. And we're going to take it back to the beginning and make it the first episode of the Wise Guys baseball show. And when it comes to baseball, there's really only one other voice we need to hear. And that is the voice of our brother, the Godfather, Mr. Willie Epting Jr. from the Shakeback Media Group. And Willie, you said what?
Well, I mean,
That is the level up music from Final Fantasy.
all right. Well, congratulations, fellas, on reaching 50. It is truly a milestone, and I really appreciate you guys thinking enough of me to have me on for this most special occasion. And I hope you guys have been doing all right. It's been such a long time since we've seen each other. I understand life gets in the way, man, but I'm glad to be here.
Well, we are absolutely glad to have you. And I got to tell you, when you were here last, look at what he put.
Brother Willie.
It's the house that gets me, considering we both graduated high school in the '90s, and we're going back there again.
It's okay, man. It's okay.
I mean, we're one bad pun away from starting to raise the roof.
Just don't burn it down.
Here we go. Anyways, so when we decided we were going to do a baseball show with the hot stove season coming and plethora of moves today, you really were our first thought. You were thought of at the same time as, of course, Alex was. But Alex, we got to give a little shout out to him. It's his dad's birthday today, which is why Mr. Alex could not be on us, so he couldn't have the 4-pack tonight. But Willie, we thought of you first because of the news that came out of the owners' meetings, the unanimous okaying of Major League Baseball owners to have the Oakland Athletics leave Oakland and head to Las Vegas. And we wanted to talk to you first and as Clevelanders, send our condolences to you because we've lived through a team leaving. Hopefully what they bring to Oakland isn't as bad as the Browns have been since coming back. But what's your take on everything? I know you said the guy was a genius, but I want, now that it's official, what do you got? What are you thinking?
Man, there's so much to unpack with this whole question that you're asking me, and I really don't know where to begin. I could go to the nostalgia route, or I can go all out. My love-hate relationship with Major League Baseball over the years, even with the Oakland A's to a degree. And not only has the city of Oakland lost the A's, but the Lakers, the Warriors now play in San Francisco across the bay. And of course the Raiders moved to Vegas 3 years ago. So now there's going to be no professional sports organizations in the East Bay. And honestly, I don't think we're ever going to see it again. Not at least in the city of Oakland anyway, until somebody gets in there and cleans that place up. And I mean, clean it up from the inside out, from the government to the policing, to the politics, to everything. And I've been texting with some of my cousins that still live in Oakland. One lives in Oakland, one lives in Hayward, which is essentially right outside of Oakland. And then the other one lives in the city. And I've been texting back and forth with them really since this whole thing broke a couple of years ago, but really this week. And what they've told me is, and just from what I've seen the last time I went out there, the city of Oakland is such a dumpster fire that it is not even worthy of a professional sports team anymore. The city is trash. from homelessness. I mean, homeless camps all over the city, with the exception of Illinois. Um, and that place holds a lot of nostalgia for me because I grew up the first part of my life out there, and that's the place where I was introduced to the sport of baseball. That's the place where I saw my dad and my uncle, who created a semi-pro team themselves and would travel to different places and new players on the Giants and the A's for that matter. And I got to meet some of those guys back in the day. That's the place where I first fell in love with the sport of baseball. That's the place where it became my favorite sport and still is to this day. So it's a little bit of a nostalgia thing for me. And then, of course, I've been to the Coliseum so many times. The last time I was there was actually for a football game. But what I'm saying is that this is truly a sports Armageddon, last days type of thing. Because the fan base in the city of Oakland deserved better. They deserved a whole lot better than what the city of Oakland gave them, which was nothing. There were a couple of bonds on the table, I know, for a stadium to be built. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Oakland or not, but Oakland is a very diverse city, and it is clearly defined from east, west, and north. And then, of course, you have downtown. But this stadium was proposed to be built near the Jack London Square, which is just west of downtown. They were going to do a whole thing, like what they did up in Cleveland with Progressive Field. You had and Gunder, or whatever the name of the arena is now, Quicken Loans Arena, I think it is, in Cleveland, where they not only
Fijo.
Okay, but where they built the venue, but when the venue pops up, then you have all these restaurants and bars and offices and stuff like that. And this is what was going to be injected into the economy for the city of Oakland. But they, for whatever reason, it didn't go through. So I asked one of my cousins, right? I said, well, okay, how come they can't just build the stadium in Fremont, which is a suburb of about 40 miles south of Oakland and about 48 miles south of the city? Or why couldn't they build a venue in Livermore, which is out actually in the valley? And he was like, no, they weren't going to do it. They just, which was still been in the same county that Oakland is in, but it's hard to turn down the type of money that Mark Davis was offered from Clark County in Las Vegas. It's hard to turn down the type of money that the A's brass were being offered to move to Las Vegas. And I equate it like this, guys. Major League, this is my reference, my point of reference. Major League Baseball is like this real estate mogul with properties all over the country. The properties are the 30 franchises within Major League Baseball. The property manager is Rob Manfred because he's the commissioner. So when you have the property owner, when you have the property owner or the company owner and the property manager telling one of your tenants that you might want to seek another place to live, i.e. Oakland A's, you guys might want to think about trying to go somewhere else. We know Portland was in the mix for a while. I think Oklahoma City was even in the mix for a minute, but they ended up settling on Vegas. So when you have your quote unquote landlord telling you, look, you need to get out of this building because it is not up to par, and we're going to help you get into a new building, that's how you know that's how bad it is or was.
Not to throw salt in the wound, Willie, but I also saw somebody put a graphic out there on Threads earlier today that not only did they lose all three pro teams within the last 6 years, if you go back to, I want to say 74, they lost the Oakland Seals. So Oakland's now the first major market to lose a team in all four professional sports leagues. St. Louis has lost 3 of them, but Oakland's the first one to do all 4.
Yeah, I mean, and even when we lived out there before we moved away, That's one of the things that my dad said. I see the city of Oakland changing into something that I don't really want to see. And Oakland and San Francisco are 8 miles apart, guys. 8 miles apart, separated by the Bay Bridge. But the two cities couldn't be any more different than night and day. I mean, Oakland is grimy, blue collar, bring your lunch pail to work every day, while San Francisco is the .com. San Francisco is the palace, if you will.
Yuppieville.
Yeah, but it's really touristy. I mean, we know what San Francisco is, and to be honest, man, there are the fan base in Oakland and the fan base in San Francisco. They do like this. They hate. It's like the Yankees and the Mets.
Oh, we hate the Yankees.
Exactly.
Is it any closer to, like, because of the proximity of them? Does it also maybe resemble a little bit more Duke, North Carolina?
No, because those teams don't play each other that often, or they didn't until interleague play. So I wouldn't really define it like that. I mean, but if you want to talk about the fan bases, I think the North Carolina and Duke fan base, they may be a little bit more tolerable.
Michigan, Ohio State.
Yeah, Michigan. Yeah, Ohio State and Michigan fans are like Giants and A's fans, or Raiders and 49ers fans. They're like this. And when the A's played the Giants in the World Series back in '89, and they swept them, or we swept them, the Earthquake Series. I remember my cousins telling me how it was so funny because the entire area was just crazy on fire. But that A's team was so dominant that the Giants really didn't have a chance. And it took literally an act of God to prevent the A's from winning that World Series with the Earthquake. So yeah, so it's more like, I would say the Yankees and the Red Sox, even to a degree, or the Mets and the Phillies, or the Mets and the Braves, but just closer to each other. But not so much because, the Giants, of course, are in the National League and the A's are in the American League, and the 49ers are in the National Football Conference and the Raiders are in the AFC. So they don't play each other that often. But when they did, man, it was crazy. And even when they didn't, and one team lost and the other team, if the other team sucked and the other team was enjoying success, then the team's fans that was having the success, oh, you best believe they let them have it.
Yeah, it's like what we're doing here in Cleveland this weekend. It's, Browns Steelers. It's, and you flash forward to next week, the Browns could go in the tank, but we don't care where we end up. We just don't want the Steelers to be successful either.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's very Yankees Mets, because the Met fan is the Brooklyn Dodger fan, the blue collar, the taxi driver. The Yankees are the white collars.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of fan base. And when you mentioned that Oakland is grimy and that's the kind of fan in San Francisco, it's the first thing that popped into my head was the Met Yankee. Because that Subway Series in 2000 was another one. I would give back a lot to have won that World Series. And I know Giant fans will say the same thing for 1989.
And you also got the story when I came down there of where the bat ended up.
Dude, from Savannah to almost Brunswick, we listened to Keith Olbermann tell the story of the Mike Piazza bat. I will have Jim send that to you. It's hysterical.
Because Olbermann owns 2/3 of the bat.
Yeah, Keith Olbermann owns 2/3 of the bat.
Oh, from the bat off Piazza's bat where he got sawed off by who was it, Clemens?
Yep.
Yeah, and Clemens threw the bat at him.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole show in itself right there.
Yes.
Now,
which at some point in time we'll end up doing.
Is this the third time this franchise has moved?
Fourth. Philly to Kansas City to Oakland. No, you're right. Third time. Fourth different city, but third time they moved, and then from Oakland to Las Vegas.
Yeah. Now
It's something with those Oakland teams: Oakland, LA to Oakland, Oakland to Vegas.
Here's a question for you, Willie. With the move and the influx of money that they will have in the franchise, Billy Beane going to lose his job?
No.
You think he'll keep him?
Yeah.
I think he should. I wanted to see what you thought about that.
Yeah, because he's now look. We know what Oakland is about with Moneyball and paying the least to get the bet, or paying the least and getting the most out of what you got. That while that may still continue to be the philosophy of the A's franchise, it's like getting a $100,000 a year raise if you're only making $50,000 a year, and then you get bumped up to $150,000 a year. You're looking like, oh my God, what am I gonna do with all this money? Oh, okay, I'll do this and this and this, but I got to be smart. So with the sponsorships that are gonna pour in Vegas, with it being a tourism city anyway, with what the Clark County political government, whatever, has probably offered the Athletics, they've gone from what is a small market team, but not really, because Oakland, San Francisco, or San Francisco, Oakland is a large media market, but the city of Oakland itself, not so much. But going to Vegas, they're going to be able to experience things from a financial standpoint that they probably never have. And we all know that have been fans of the A's for all these years know that that's been the main reason why we couldn't keep the big name people there. Going all the way back to Reggie Jackson, when Reggie Jackson left the A's and went to New York. He was like one of the first superstars to do that kind of thing. And so in essence, I'm kind of happy that the move took place from a fan standpoint, but as a son of the city of Oakland, that's why I'm sad. As a fan of that fan base that knows what that city has been through, that is what makes me sad.
Well, you figure 4 titles in Oakland, the 3 in the 70s, 72, 73, 74.
And then the Bash Brothers. Yep.
And then the Bash Brothers won that title. You think of the names that have come out of there. Tony La Russa made his bones between there and Chicago. McGuire, Canseco, Sandy Alderson, Billy Bean. I mean, could you imagine Giambi and those boys if this happened 25 years ago in Vegas?
And that's the thing too, man, is that the A's have up into these last few years, because in 2020, the COVID year, I mean, we won the division. We won the division and were the 3rd seeded team, I believe, in the playoffs, the expanded playoffs. But then what happens? We beat Chicago in 5 games, and then we lose to Houston in the CS, or in the DS. At that time, the Houston Astros had finished with an under 500 record that season. So ever since 1990, when we got beat by the Reds, and the Reds because we went to the World Series 3 years in a row. We won 3 in a row in the 70s, and then we went 3 years in a row in the late 80s and into 1990, 88, 89, and then
Yep, you're right. 88,
yeah,
89,
88 we lost to the Dodgers. 89 we beat the Giants. 90 we lost to the Reds. That Reds team was loaded too, and then those nasty boys. Oh my gosh, Eric Davis and all those boys. But ever since then, we've enjoyed a great level of regular season success, no matter who the manager was. Most recently, Bob Melvin, who's actually gone back to the Bay and now is going to be coach or managing the Giants. That dude don't know what he want to do. But even those teams where Giambi and the Miguel Tejadas and all those boys, man, when we lost to Detroit, when we were favored, and Verlander and Scherzer and those boys, I mean, we just could never get over the hump. And even as recently as, or before 2020, I want to say 15, the year that the Kansas City Royals won the series, they beat the Mets that year, right?
Let's bring that up. Thanks.
No, but no.
Yes, that's here. They beat the Mets.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that was we had we were in the wild card game against the Royals, and we had Scott Kazmir on the line, or on the bump rather, and he had struggled the second half of the year, and we threw him out there anyway, and we ended up losing it. And of course, the rest is history. So I'm hoping that as a fan of that squad and have been for basically all my life, from a product on the field that you can watch and hope that they have success. That part of it does excite me. I mean, the venue I'm pretty sure is going to be dope as I don't know what. I mean, it's going to be a dome stadium because it gets up to 130 in Vegas. But
Well,
I'm
I
yeah,
did see a report on that earlier, though, is that with what they're planning for where it's going to go, where the old Tropicana lot was, it's going to end up being 2,000 seats smaller than so they're going to be the smallest stadium in baseball by more than 2,000 seats. I'm thinking it's only going to be around 32.
but you know what though? That stadium will get filled in Vegas, unlike what we've seen in Oakland, where you had.
I mean, most of their crowd's going to be tourism.
Yeah, well, I believe that there may be a lot of Vegas fans that will latch on, just like they've done with the Raiders. Now,
yeah, but the Raiders were a little bit successful with the move, and then the Knights actually just ended up winning a Stanley Cup. I mean, the Raiders, the A's right now. Yeah, you guys won the division a couple of years ago. There wasn't anybody in the stands, but I mean, really, after everyone came back, they've not been very successful. So they've got to do something to turn that team around by the time that building's opened. Otherwise, we're gonna have a Tampa situation on our hands.
yeah, and I don't think that's going to be the case because those fans in St. Pete and Tampa, they should be ashamed of themselves.
Agreed.
They should be ashamed of themselves, and for them to be able to pull off getting a new venue for that team that had absolutely no support at home, I mean, that was completely a surprise to me. I'm glad that it happened for them, but it still was a complete surprise. And I don't think it's going to be like that for the A's for whatever reason. I don't really have a definitive reason why I think it's not going to be that way, other than the fact that when the A's were successful, the Coliseum, it wasn't always that capacity, but you're looking at 50-60%, which at 50-60% of the capacity at the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum would more than likely be a 80%, 90% capacity at the venue in Vegas. And I think that they may have even thought about that. I'm not even sure. But I don't think that's going to be an issue at all.
No, they'll draw in the new venue, and it's a new venue. So the first couple of years, you have the newness that will draw the fans in a lot too. But as we're talking about Vegas, let's not forget the two-time defending WNBA champion Aces when we're talking about this.
Yeah. Owned by Mark Davis, by the way.
Didn't Brady buy into them too?
Yep.
Check for videotapes. Anyway, wait till next week.
You leave Becky Hammond alone.
Who is she? Their coach?
Yes.
Yeah.
So all she did was help, work for Pop, and now she's gone in and won 2 titles in the WNBA.
Yep.
Becky Hammond is that person.
She's gonna be the GOAT, man. She's gonna be the GOAT.
Sure, he is. Not for nothing.
She's not bad.
So,
she's not bad looking either.
No. Listen. I was always partial to Rebecca Lobo, just from being in that part of the country.
That's another show in itself, right there.
Yeah.
I'm already scoping out NWHL players.
What was it, Jim? When Jim was down here. Oh, by the way, so we ended up not going to the tailgate party. $180 a person to tailgate.
Excuse me?
You heard me.
Really, my flight was $360.
So we're here Friday night and we're plotting out directions, because there's like 6 or 8 different parking lots you can go to, and of course the stadium was already full.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking, and I put in tailgate parking lot, Jacksonville, Florida, yada yada, and it says tickets for it, and I go, wait, what? And I look at it, the cheapest spots left are $180 a person.
2 miles from the stadium.
Yeah. So the setup that day was my smart TV had 1 game on it. My laptop on one side of the room had 1 game on it. And Jim's laptop on the other side of the room had a 3rd game on it.
So who were they playing that? Who were they playing that Sunday?
That was Florida, Georgia.
Oh, Florida, Georgia. Okay. Oh, okay. Hmm.
So we ended up having we had that game on, we had the Cavs on, and then who else did we put on at that point?
Well, during the day we had on Kansas, Oklahoma. We had on Georgia, Florida, and then we had
For a half.
for a half, and then we had on one of the lower ticket games. And then at night, we had Ohio State, Wisconsin on the TV. We had the Cavs on mine, and then we decided to do a live hit while he was sitting next to me in this exact spot on the couch.
And then finished up with the World Series.
Which, by the way, hat tip to the Texas Rangers on their first title. It did break my heart to see Jacob deGrom with a World Series trophy in his lap. But I digress.
Even though he had nothing to do with it.
You know what, though, dude? It still hurt.
Yeah.
It still hurt. You know, it hurt. And speaking of hurt, let's talk about some of the moves going on already in the hot stove that's going on. And I sent one to Jim today. Cal Quantrill has been traded to the Colorado Rockies from the Cleveland Guardians. But in the biggest move,
who lost absolutely nothing in the move.
Exactly. But in the biggest move, did you see Atlanta?
Or
did you see Atlanta has given up on Mike Soroka and sent him and 4 other players to get, was it Aaron Bummer from Chicago White Sox? And then they sent Kyle Wright, the 20-game winner from 2 years ago, to Kansas City.
Where careers go to die.
At the very least. But he'll play with Bobby Witt, so that's cool.
I mean, if you think about it, the White Sox moved those 2 guys. They don't, they do not pick up another player option or re-signed, Glass Joe. I mean, Tim Anderson, and their own friggin' announcer even leaves.
Hold on. He is far more pissed in Honda than he is Glass Joe.
Oh my gosh. There he goes. You're not talking about the modern day Jackie Robinson, are you? That's what he called himself.
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
the only barrier he broke was a sound barrier after Hosey hit him and he hit the ground.
Yeah, right. And the Braves with Soroka, I mean, Soroka had what, 2 torn Achilles 2 years in a row?
Yes, and I get that. And I even said to somebody today, he's like, because he said to me, Soroka's becoming John Carlos Stanton. I said, no. He's not an overjacked musclehead who can't hit a slider. And he said, very true. But Charlie Morton's 38. Max Fried and Spencer Strider cannot pitch in the month of October in Philadelphia. Have we not figured that out yet?
We have figured that out because they own him.
Own him. It ain't even. If I hear one more person compare his career to Dwight Gooden's, I'm going to start throwing hands.
Maybe they're talking about the potential.
Well, then again, the last guy they said was like that was Strasburg.
Yeah, and he's out of there.
Yeah, he's gone. So we got today was non-tender day, and it is with a heavy heart that I announced that the New York Mets have decided to non-tender Daniel Vogelbach. Danny Burgers will no longer be a New York Met. That's hurtful to the big dude in me, to be honest with you. First, we lost Bartolo to Atlanta, and now we've lost Danny Burgers. It's hurtful. It is. But I'm glad he's gone because I think they need to let the young kids cook a little more than they have been. So, Willie, we got a bunch of big free agents this year, and we got one guy who's going to take up some of the news cycle who's not a free agent yet, but is going to get a big contract. If you had to put money on where these 3 guys land, and I'll give you the 3 I'm thinking of. Where's Ohtani going to land? Where is Aaron Nola going to land? And where is Blake Snell going to land? Because I think those are the 3 biggest free agents in the market. You have the best 2-way player in the history of the game, and you have the 2 best, in my opinion, pitchers on the free agent market. And Brandon Woodruff was non-tendered today too by Milwaukee.
He sure was. Yep.
And the and caveat on that, the Ohtani, now the 2-time American League MVP, unanimous today.
Yeah, and Ronald Acuna was unanimous too, which
I
again,
not
you
call that too.
you did, and 40 and 70, I think, yeah, unanimous is a good thing there. So, Willie, if you had to put money on where Otani's going to land, on where Snell's going to land, and Nola, where would you lay your bets? And no, that's not a Las Vegas push there.
Yeah, because I'm not a betting man, but I'll bet you, I'll bet some of this Dayquil here.
Hey, Dennis Leary said it's the 13th step, dude.
I see your Dayquil and I'll raise you some Theraflu. Look, and I don't even play poker. And if I did, I wouldn't know what I was doing anyway. So, but no, for Otani, I mean, we keep hearing that he's not going to leave the West Coast. So that only gives you a handful of teams. That gives you Seattle, that gives you San Francisco, that gives you the Dodgers, and it gives you the Padres. I don't think the Padres can afford them. I know Seattle has a lot of money that they can offer. I don't really see him going to the Giants. I see him staying in the American League so he can continue. Well, that wouldn't matter because the DH is universal now. But the fact that he's not going to be able to pitch this year or in 2024, rather, I think that knocks out some teams. I actually would like to see him with the Red Sox. But that would be him being able to pitch because they need arms. They need starting arms in that rotation. So with that being said, if I had to put him out, anything that mattered to me on the line, can I say he's going to Japan because he's there now for vacation? I have no clue, man. If you made me do it, I would say either the Yankees, the Rays, or the Mariners.
Did you say Tampa?
Yeah.
Wow.
I heard some rumblings a while back. And I don't know how much traction it had, but I mean, you just never know with these dudes, man. And that's why I like to say, well, I can tell you what I would like for him to end up, but so yeah.
The scary part is I'm hearing Atlanta too.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm hearing San Francisco.
See? And San Francisco or Atlanta, I hadn't heard anything about those two places. So who the hell knows?
Makes sense. They're getting rid of pitching if they want to bring him in.
Mm-hmm. Now for Aaron Nola, man, I really hope he stays in Philly. They want him back. I got a sissy from another Missy that comes on from or she's a Philly fan. She lived in Philly, but she moved out of there. They want him back. They want him back. Now, I think they will have the money to pay him. It's more or less from Nola whether or not he wants to actually have a change of scenery.
You think he goes to San Diego to play with his brother?
I thought about that too. With all things being equal in terms of the financial ramifications or reward from it, the taxes in California are obviously going to be way higher than what they are in Philly. But he's going to get a boatload of money. And as far as Blake Snell goes, I think Blake Snell he's probably the wild card because what he did this year, I don't think many people expected him to be able to have that level of performance the way that he did, becoming only the fourth pitcher to ever win a Cy Young in both leagues. I mean, I didn't expect that out of Blake Snell. I actually thought he was washed. I really did.
Yeah.
But and he's 31 years old, so it may be a little bit more of a narrower road to travel for him. The Padres, I mean, they got all the talent. And if he wants to win a championship, he should stay there and have just as good a chance as going anywhere else.
Let me throw a scenario out there with Blake Snell. What about Cincinnati?
Ooh.
He would definitely make that rotation better.
I would make them the Central Division champion right now if he went there.
I
don't know, man. Chicago's pretty good. And they got Craig Counsell now at the helm, and that dude can manage his behind off.
Yeah, I'm going to I want to talk about the manager shift here in a couple of minutes, but go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So if I had to put money on it, Ohtani ends up with the Dodgers. I don't think he's going to leave the West Coast. I think he's happy. I think if he would be able to pitch, Steve Cohen would back up a Brinks truck to him. But without being able to pitch next year and the Mets needing that, he's not going to do that. I honestly think that the Mets are going to be in on Nola. He's a ground ball pitcher. You have a Gold Glove caliber shortstop. You have a good defensive second baseman. You have a good defensive that they're going to have to play at third, and a good defensive second baseman in Jeff McNeil. And then with Blake Snell, if Ohtani doesn't end up in Dodger blue, Blake Snell will. Because again, the Dodgers, Kershaw's done. He's done. Surgery and everything. He's done. They need a lefty. They get Walker Buehler back. Be nice to tandem him with Blake Snell, unless they, honor their contract with Trevor Bauer. Who knows?
I'm glad that you brought him up. Where do you think he comes back? Because I got a feeling he's going to be signing with somebody now that, number one, the suspension's over. Number two, all the new evidence that came out that I don't want to say exonerates him, but for lack of a better term, I will.
I can see him back in Cincinnati. It's not a big market. He doesn't need to make a ton of money because the Dodgers still owe him all that guaranteed money.
And he's also getting a shitload of money from Momentum.
Those dudes are hilarious.
What's Momentum? I don't know about that.
Do you ever see that dude on TikTok, the King of JUCO, the one that is always in the batting cage against people?
Yeah,
likes to run his mouth. The Asian dude.
Yeah,
well, they have their own YouTube channel, and they do all sorts of stuff like that. And Bauer was big on it when he was sitting out his suspension and still in the States. Like, he's in the cage throwing to this guy who was in the Giants system for 5 or 6 years. I'll send it to you because first of all, they're hilarious.
You got to send him the Silent Library one.
No, well, yeah, but I'm going to send him one with the baseball bat bros.
Yeah. That one's really good.
This one dude takes bats and he showcases them. Like, remember the ceramic bats from the 90s?
Mm-hmm.
He hit with a ceramic bat, and one I watched today, the Reflex, which I used in high school, he hits with those. I mean, he hits.
They'll do like challenges. Like, they'll bring in like an 18-year-old phenom on his way to college, to throw against MLB hitters. I think the most recent one that I saw, they actually brought in Hope Troutwine, who was like a 3-time All-American softball pitcher at Oklahoma, to be able to see if like major league hitters can get anything off of her.
Okay.
And they couldn't.
Yeah, send me that. That would be interesting. I could probably put that in one of the shows. Did you see that?
Jenny Finch embarrassed dudes years ago. Remember that?
Yeah, but Troutwine was throwing, like the one I actually saw just recently, she was throwing 69-mile-an-hour rise balls at Sim.
That ain't cool.
That's illegal.
That's hilarious.
That translates into like 98.
Yeah.
That's insanity. Jim, you'd mentioned the managers. We've had several changes.
7 of them, actually. And
one change
opening.
One change I am shocked that didn't happen. But let's start with Craig Counsell, and let's start with the guy who used Steve Cohen to run up the score and get his big deal in Chicago. He's inheriting a team that I think overachieved a little bit last year, who now is not going to have Cody Bellinger.
Yeah, he's on the market too.
He's going to the Yankees. He's going to play where his old man played. It's done. He's going to the Yankees. Because now Harrison Bader's gone too. They're going to move Cody Bellinger to center field, keep Judge and right, and Stanton will be around whenever Brian Cashman feels like talking smack about him.
I'm hoping the Cubs fall on their face hard for this for 2 reasons. Number one, I'm still not over 2016. And number 2, they did David Ross dirty.
They really did.
They did.
They really did. Almost as bad as the Browns did Baker, but we'll talk about that another time. I'm not sure about Carlos Mendoza. I don't know what to think. I can't stand the guy he worked for the last few years. And I'm shocked Aaron Boone still has a job. Who else we got? My favorite hiring is Stephen Vogt in Cleveland.
Yeah, we'll talk about him in a second. Dusty Baker leaves, and then and Jose Espada in Houston now.
Yeah, but Jose Espada was groomed for that job.
Murphy takes over for counsel.
Murphy was in San Diego, right?
Yes. The Kapler leaves. Bob Melvin takes over. We already talked about that one very briefly. The wild card that came out earlier this week, Ron Washington and his 904-year-old ass now in Los Angeles.
I will say this from my chest. I fucking love that. Because I would run through a wall for Ron Washington.
Because remember, it's incredibly hard to play first base.
When more Moneyball references for you, Willie.
Mm-hmm.
Because when he stood there, and he's like, when we get to spring training, get this thing together, we are going to run down the West. You can take that to the bank and deposit it. I'm like, find me a wall. I'm going to run through a wall for this man. This might be the guy Trout needs.
If he stays there.
He goes to Philly, I'm going to revolt.
Well, the Angels are an enigma because what they have on their squad they have 4 American League most valuable players, or is it 5? How many times has Trout run it? 3 times?
Think so.
So they have 5-time AL MVP on their squad, but yet they can't. I don't get it. I don't get this team. Now, can we talk about? Oh my gosh, I forgot his name just that quick.
Very quickly, Mike. Cavs 108, Pistons 100. Final.
Cool. What's the Anthony Rendon? That's what I was trying to think of. Can we say that he should be arrested and charged for robbery after signing the deal from the National?
No hablo inglés.
Hold on. Willie, the 2 big contracts that were handed out after the Nationals won the World Series in 2019 were to Anthony Rendon and Steven Strasburg.
Steven Strasburg deserved it, though. And I guess you could say to a degree Rendon did, because he probably was the second best player on that World Series team. But that in the playoffs was what I'm saying. But, highway robbery, man. I mean, like to a felonious degree.
It's the biggest contract I can remember in recent memory in Major League Baseball where the player fleeced the organization.
Jason Bay.
I think Rendon's got this beaten. I don't think it's close. Bay was bad, but Rendon telling the media he doesn't speak English to avoid ducking the question about when is he going to come back.
Good point.
Because it's not just a bad deal. It's bad PR on his part as well. So it makes the organization look terrible on top of it.
No, you're right.
Let's look at it from this standpoint, though, guys. He's got his title. He's got his money. He can quit if he wanted to. And essentially he has. What really set me off about Rendon was when he got into it with the fan and was already out for the season.
Yep. He went to the Jim Rome school of PR. When the going gets tough, quit.
Yeah. That's what heated me up about him.
Jim Rome reference. Jim, I'm going to say it at some point in time this episode, just so you know.
Christina Everett.
Yeah. No, they're in Cleveland. Is it Rizzo and Goldhammer that do this? With the Bret Michaels thing?
Yes.
Okay, so Rizzo and Goldhammer, who do the really big show on ESPN Radio in Cleveland, whenever
they don't want to give an answer, if they say like name somebody who does this or whatnot, and they just don't, it's not that they don't know the answer, it's that they don't want to answer. The answer
they say
is
Bret Michaels, the lead singer from Poison.
Mm-hmm.
So Jim and I started doing that, and then we're like, no, we got to find somebody sports related. So now he'll say Jim Everett, and I will laugh and say Chris Everett.
Because he knows Jim Everett was my guy growing up, and he just loves to dig. He loves to twist the knife.
Jim Everett was your guy growing up?
I was a diehard, still to this day, a diehard Rams fan.
Okay, so it was the Rams Jim Everett, not the Saints Jim Everett.
Mike.
Don't bring Taylor up yet. We got to talk about Jason and Travis later.
Oh, God.
Willie, I do that because I know he's got the headphones in, so it actually blares into his ears.
Did it blare into your ears there, Mike?
Yeah, it blared into my ears. I got the Sonys on tonight. It's even worse. Jackass. But so
of all the moves, who do you think? Mike, I got to ask now that we actually didn't cover it last week. What do you think of Vogt taking over for Tito?
I adore it. I absolutely adore it. And here's why. Stephen Vogt, first of all, as a player, first of all, catchers somehow make the best managers.
They call the games, man.
Exactly. And Vogt is an old school catcher. So I love it. He's young enough that he can relate to that young core in Cleveland. But if you notice, the coaching staff has stayed intact.
A lot of them got broken off, though. Four of them left. Sarbaugh left.
Okay. Did Sandy stay?
For the best of my knowledge, he did.
That's all he needs. That's all he needs is Sandy.
He's been the interim before too, right? Sandy has.
He took his name out of the running because I think everybody in Cleveland thought that Sandy Alomar Jr. was the heir apparent to Terry Francona.
I think everybody everywhere thought that.
And he took his name out of the running. Now, I forgot this. Sandy Alomar's 60?
He's only like 3 or 4 years younger than Tito. It was replay coordinator Mike Barnett who left, bullpen coach Rigo Beltran, third base coach Mike Sarbaugh, and DeMarlo Hale also left.
All right, and DeMarlo Hale was the bench coach, right?
Yep.
Okay, but Vogt would bring in his own bench coach. If he's smart, he moves Sandy to bench coach. Sandy and the pitching coach he needs to keep. So those two moves right there. Yeah. Carl, if Sandy and Carl Willis are there, he's going to be fine. And if Stephen Vogt was hired and Tito has anything to do with the franchise, Tito signed off on this, which is going to give him a little more cachet in the room with those young kids that Tito really brought along to be a championship level team. He's close enough to the game where he's going to be still in it and understand. He's far enough removed that he's going to have the respect and cachet of a former player. Mm-hmm. So I love that move. For all the questions I have for what the hell the Mets are doing, that I think was the best managerial hire this year. And that includes Greg Counsell. That was the best managerial hire this offseason.
Mike, are we going to be referring to him as Jake Taylor?
Holy shit.
A catcher taking over?
For a crusty veteran manager? Wait, that means Tito's Lou Brown. And I refuse
I have no problem with that.
I refuse to call one of the Dolans Well, they were more the Roger Dorn type. Yeah, I think Stephen Vogt's name on our show will be Jake Taylor.
So of all 7 of these moves, because the San Diego vacancy hasn't been filled yet after Melvin left, which one do you think is the biggest wild card? Who's going to end up translating to more wins?
I say the Cubs.
Stephen Vogt.
I say the Cubs. The Cubs are going to build on what they did last year before falling down there at the end.
As much as I love him, Pete Crow Armstrong is not Cody Bellinger. You know who his mother is?
No.
Pete Crow Armstrong, who he was drafted by the Mets. He was a part of the deal that brought them who the hell did they get from the Cubs? Javi Baez. How that worked out. His mom was the one who played the mother in Little Big League.
God, I haven't watched that movie in 20 years.
Came up on my Facebook timeline for something the other day.
By the way, I still have half the Goonies to watch, so get off my
You're
case.
killing me. You're killing me.
You know what's funny is I started it and then I stopped it, and then all the stuff with Watson came out that we'll talk about on the second half of the show.
Yeah.
And now it's no longer on demand anymore. So now I got to go find another source to be able to finish it.
You're killing me, Smalls.
That one I enjoyed. This one, I'm hoping the second half gets a little bit better.
Willie, can you reach out from Texas and smack the shit out of him for that?
You're closer.
I don't know.
The Goonies? Come on.
Are you reading something?
No, I'm serious. That is a phenomenal film. He's never seen it.
I haven't watched that movie in I don't know how long.
Yeah, but if I wanted to tempt fate and yell, "Hey, you guys," you'd know what I was talking about.
Probably not. I'm not gonna lie. I cannot tell a lie.
No, you can't. So the other player I wanted to talk to you guys about, and I'm a little too close to the situation to really look at it from the perspective I want to. So I'll ask you first, Brother Willie.
Mm-hmm.
Why the hell haven't the Mets signed Pete Alonso long term yet?
How many years does he have left?
This year.
This is it? I don't know. Unless they're gonna go full rebuild, which
they're awful close to being contenders again to go full rebuild.
That's what I'm saying, because it would seem like to me that you have McNeil, you have Frankie, you have him.
You have Mauricio, you have Beatty, you have Alvarez, you have Nimmo.
Yes. They're not going to go for a rebuild. I don't know why they would not have signed this dude yet. And it may turn into an Aaron Judge thing. You know, he may just go ahead and come up on free agency and see what's out there in terms of offers, and then let the price go up, and then turn around and get, I don't know, how old is Alonso? What, 24?
Pete Alonso, I think, is 26 or 27.
Okay.
But the thing is, he comes up first on my Google search when I type in Pete. He's 28.
28. So he's probably going to get a 7-year deal.
Yeah, because he'll be 29 on the 7th. He'll be 29 on December 7th.
Yeah, I don't see them giving him a 10-year deal.
I think with the DH now they can.
Yeah, but I don't see them doing that, though.
Well, they gave Nimmo 8.
That ain't 10.
I know it's not 10.
Let's go full Bobby Bow.
Don't be a dick.
So
you really want me to be a dick? You notice I'm actually just bobbing my head and looking down, and I'm not going to say what I'm thinking.
I can see him giving him the 8 they gave Nimmo, who was the same age when he signed the contract. Nimmo's only a year older than Pete. Nimmo is 30 now. He was 29 when he signed his deal. I can see them giving him the 8, but he's going to get 27 to 30 a year. He's going to get Matt Olson's contract.
Yeah,
with a few extra bucks on it.
Stir the pot. You know, Matt Olson did play for the A's once.
I know. I'm just saying the contract. I didn't.
Yeah, I'm just saying though. But you know, going back to what we talked about earlier, I don't know, man. I don't have a clue. And your guy, what's his last name? Cohen, the owner. Cohen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he'll spend the money. We know that.
God, do we know that?
Yeah.
I mean, he could pay one of these guys $10 million a year to clean the stalls at Belmont Park.
I'll take it. I'll take that job. Shoot, put me in, coach.
I mean, shoot. You know, I think that's where Alonso's contract's going to go.
Mm-hmm. Are there even any talks going on right now between the two of them?
Not that they're publicizing. And he just hired Scott Boras. So you know Scott Boras,
Pete
and you know Scott, yeah. And you know Boras is going to keep the door open for Cohen as long as possible.
Right. Yeah.
Because it gets his guys the most money.
Yeah, I didn't know he had hired Scott Boras.
He just did it.
That actually throws another X into the algebraic equation of negotiations. He's going to... I don't know, man. I mean, it ain't like the NFL, you know, where a person or a player rather is going into the last year of his contract and they may try to hold out or whatever. He ain't going to do anything like that.
No. And he's going to make the most money in arbitration in the history of arbitration.
Right. And both sides may know that.
Yeah.
So
this may be, well, you figure what they did with Lindor when they made the deal was play the final year of your contract at what it currently is, which was the arbitration number was like something like 24, like 18 or 19. And then next year start your new one. They very well may end up with that. It's before spring training.
Mm-hmm.
Because now they're floating ideas that Christopher Morel from Chicago would be the centerpiece of a trade that got Alonso to the Cubs. No, and no again.
How about no?
I want to know what Jim is thinking because he's being quiet way too long.
He's got that grin on his face. He's going to be a dick to me about it.
You have to start the Q-tip when there's resistance.
Pour one out for Matthew Perry.
Oh, gosh.
I don't care where Pete Alonso ends up because, Willie, you don't have to deal with this man every week for 6 months hearing Pete Alonso this, Pete Alonso that, Mets this, Mets that.
That's his fault. I could
My
hear
father's.
it. No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I could hear it.
I don't have any time. Literally the 2 to 3 hours a week I get for myself are with him.
I'm gonna have you send in messages like you did before.
Okay, I have time for.
Yeah, I'll have you do that.
And Jim, as far as your opinion on Pete,
You know, morons.
Oh my gosh,
dude, you sound like hell.
Yeah, I know that sound.
It's just dry. Today is the first time we've had rain in about 4 days. It's helped a little bit, but that's been about it. But I mean, it's hereditary. So I mean, I'll be doing this until March.
Is it allergies?
It's a seasonal allergy thing.
Ah,
Anytime the weather starts turning colder, it's the leaves, and then it goes straight into the snow, and then once the snow melts, that's when it finally starts to clear up.
So, Jim, we're at the hour mark. We only had Willie for the first hour, so I think it's time to push the button.
push the button.
Band practice.
Would you shut up? Just push the button already? No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
It's the YZ Translator on the Wise Guys Sports Show.
I'm forever clean.
That is the new intro to the YZ Translator. Yes, the favorite segment of the two wise guys here. And yes, that was a recording of President Joe Biden telling him to push the button. As you may remember, everybody who's watching the YZ Translators, when Jim and I give ourselves and Brother Willie at this point in time a name or entity in the sports world, and the first thing that pops into our minds is what we tell you on the air. We've had wonderful, wonderful exchanges, as in Kyrie Irving being sing-songedly called a douche canoe, to Deshaun Watson getting what?
Victor Wembanyama being blown over in a wind tunnel.
Victor Wembanyama being blown over in a wind tunnel. What was the other? Oh, me calling Brett Favre boss hog. Yet we've had quite the array. Our friend Patrick mentioning Jared Fogle in one was pretty funny too. So Willie, we're going to give you one apiece, and then we know we got to let you go because we want to make sure you get healthy for your stuff. And I'm going to go first, Jim. And
you always do. Go ahead. It's your time.
Well, thank you. And this name is going to bring up some maybe some bad issues as well. But Willie, your first name in the YZ Translator is Josh McDaniels.
The Hamburglar.
Hey, the McRib's coming back.
Yeah, but McDaniels better not.
Yeah, the Hamburglar.
Okay.
It's just for me, for like the last game against I want to say it was against the Lions, or it may have been the game before that against I can't remember who it was, maybe the Patriots. When he was standing on the sideline all by himself, no players, no other coaches near him. And then when he's in the press conference, the post-game press conference, or even being interviewed at halftime, he always has this dumbass look on his face. And it reminds me of the Hamburglar for some reason. Maybe because I've called him McDummy, McFraud. He got the McAxe. So he's McFired. Maybe all of those things come into play. So that's what it is.
Now I have a picture of him in my head with that little costume on that you used to see from McDonald's.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, he's going to steal about $40 million because that's how much Mark Davis still owes him.
Does that make Belichick grimace?
No, I think Belichick might be Ronald because he's the taskmaster.
That means Matt Patricia's grimace.
Yes.
I thought that would be Charlie Weiss.
No, Charlie Weiss is too smart to be Grimace.
Charlie Weiss is why they have all those Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Okay, Jim, make sure we cut that, please.
That's going to be cut. Willie, your name from me tonight for the YZ Translator, kind of in your backyard, quote unquote, Jimbo Fisher.
I can't use Hamburglar again, can I?
It's telling that you went there.
What about Shaggy from Scooby-Doo? If y'all know anything about Scooby Doo out there that's watching and listening, first of all, Google it. You might be too young to know what I'm talking about.
Secondly, that was also Casey Kasem.
Was it?
Yeah.
That was Casey Kasem in the 60s, yeah.
Wow. I did not know that. Okay, so Jimbo Fisher is Shaggy and Casey Kasem at the same time. Because Shaggy was always scared of stuff. And it's like Jimbo Fisher was scared being in the SEC with the likes of, at that time, Orgeron and of course Saban. It's like he was scared to be there because he knew that those other coaches were in a different class. And the A&M program as a whole, they need to stop considering themselves a blue blood. And they are, and I'm not saying that a lot of people do, but those hashtag gigums, they think that their program is a blue blood program, and it's just simply not. And Jimbo Fisher has let us further know that it's not. Oh, wait a minute. I got a text from Deion Sanders. He said that A&M has been calling him, and he's asking me should he answer the call. And I said, no, you shouldn't answer the call. Stay with Colorado.
Jimbo Fisher, to me, is the college equivalent of Kevin Stefanski in the NFL. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, but you don't have to tell everyone that you think you're the smartest guy in the room, because the smartest guy in the room doesn't have to tell people he's the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah, that's like nobody has to tell the leader, or nobody has to tell who the leader, or the leader doesn't have to tell everybody that he's the leader.
I was going to say Eddie Haskell. The ass kisser from Leave It to Beaver.
Not a show I watch regularly, but okay.
Listen, man, Nick at Night at my grandmother's house when I was little, it was like all the old stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what you should do. Get yourself a jailbroken Fire Stick, and you can watch those shows. Oh, okay. You can watch those shows 24 hours a day.
Not MASH, definitely, but not Leave It to Beaver. That was because she wanted to watch it, and I just kind of sat there like, yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
So, Willie, we're gonna let you bounce so you can get some more medication. You get a good night's sleep. Get through that. Thank you so much for coming on again, brother Willie. We do appreciate it. As we get closer to the baseball season, we're gonna see you again.
Yeah.
And get next Friday night, Black Friday, 9:00. Keep an eye out. We're gonna preview the biggest game of the year next Friday.
Could that be my Michigan Wolverines, who have been accused?
You mean your Houston Astros?
Do I tell him what I was planning for next week?
I hate them.
I know you do, but it's starting to look like your boys are no better.
Well, hey, the Astros won a World Series, and they're not going to ever take it from them. So if it gives us a national championship, I'm all good.
Really, I was going to show up here next week. I was going to go to Lids, and I was going to get a blue hat, and I was going to have in yellow writing, OHFU.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
you should have said that. You should have just did it.
But I don't want to drop $40 on something I'm only going to wear twice a year.
Yeah, but it'll be like those jerseys you got back there. It'll be part of your montage.
It could.
Yeah.
I got mad, and then I got mad at him at first, and I realized the night before I had on my shirt on the front it says "Once again Michigan," and on the back it says "Is our bitch again," and all the years in a row they beat them listed.
So you gonna wear that shirt next weekend?
No, I'll wear. I may paint myself like that dude that's Big Nut because I got no hair to paint or anything, so that'll be cool.
Yeah, but he's also got to realize, brother Willie, that he is 0-2 on this since we've been doing this show.
Yeah, keep doing this show.
Jerk.
All right, guys. I appreciate y'all having me,
Thanks,
man.
buddy.
Willie,
right, y'all take care.
from
Anytime.
us to you before you bounce. Happy Thanksgiving, brother. We love you.
Yes, sir.
Happy Thanksgiving to y'all and y'all's families, man. Appreciate it. Love y'all too.
Thank you.
All right, peace.
Don't get the hat.
I got 3/4 of my Christmas gifts done. They're already ordered. They're on the way. I don't want to spend any more money for a while.
Oh, dude.
Give me a
with
couple
you.
more weeks.
Exactly. So let's take our commercial break now. We'll come back with some other stuff that we wanted to talk about, and then we'll hit our translator.
Yep.
How long are we doing the commercial break for anyway?
5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever.
Yeah, we'll see you back in 5.
All right.
And we're back.
But wait, there's more.
There's more. So I had a couple other things I want to talk about tonight. We'll save the big one we were busting chops about just at the end with Willie until next week. Because there is a lot more going on with that. I don't know if you
Yeah.
saw some of the reports coming out. This in taking the scarlet colored glasses off right now. This isn't good, dude. This isn't good at all. But we'll talk about that more in depth next week when we get to previewing the game next Friday night.
Because it's going to be not only that. I mean, we're going to be college. It's going to be mostly college football because all the big rivalry games. We got the game. We got Apple Cup. We got Egg Bowl. We got Iron Bowl. We got Crosstown Showdown. We got Governor's Cup. We got them all.
Clean old-fashioned hate.
Yep.
Yeah, we got them all next week. I do want to talk a little CFP with you. We were talking about this on the phone the other day, and I wanted to bring up what I said to you the other day. And that quite simply is the 4 words I said to you toward the end of our conversation. That is, the fix is in. And if you look at the top 6 right now, or top 10, you have Alabama sitting at 8, Texas sitting at 7. Of course, the top 6, Oregon 6, Washington 5, Florida State 4, Michigan 3, Ohio State 2, and Georgia 1. This is basically setting up for the first time in playoff history. We are going to have an undefeated conference champion be kept out of the playoff. And I think at that point in time, and you'll probably agree with me on this, it's time to absolve the committee and let this thing play out like Division II. If it gets to Bama wins the SEC and the winner of the Big Ten, whether it be Ohio State or Michigan, gets in, you're going to keep out either an undefeated Florida State if they hold serve or an undefeated Washington. Because you know damn well they're not going to let Alabama sit out. And knowing the way this committee is, Georgia played one good team and all of a sudden they're number 1.
Georgia's beat the top 10 teams back-to-back weeks.
Were they top 10 because they were good, or were they top 10 because of where they play?
There's no feasible way that you're going to put a 2-loss Alabama in over an undefeated Florida State or Washington.
No, not a 2-loss Alabama, because they're not going to lose to Tennessee Chattanooga tomorrow, and they're not going to lose the Iron Bowl. If they beat Georgia in the SEC championship game, mark my words right now, unless either of the Big Ten East teams lays an egg against Iowa, there is going to be a undefeated conference champion left out of the playoff. Because the point of rationale will be Georgia's only loss was to Alabama in a conference championship game. Look at what they did all year, their resume. I'm sorry. Ole Miss and Penn State are the same damn team. As much as you love Mizzou, was Mizzou ranked that high because they're good or because they play in the SEC?
Mizzou's that good.
Okay, that's fair. Was Ole Miss ranked that high because they were that good or play in the SEC? Because the ass beating they took.
About a 60-40 split, though, because that game was pretty close for a while.
It was. But the 60 is because they're in the SEC. The 40 is because they're that good.
I shudder to think what they're going to do to Mississippi State next week, especially with Mississippi State firing their coach.
Yeah, I saw that, and you're right. He was a sacrificial lamb. That was bullshit. But I fear for that, Jim. I do. I fear for either, not for nothing. I fear if it's Ohio State. I fear if it's Michigan. I fear if it's Penn State or Washington, or not Penn State, excuse me, Florida State or Washington. Undefeated, we have a very real possibility of an undefeated conference champion missing the college football playoff because of bias.
I could honestly see a scenario where if everyone holds serve, if the Big Ten, ACC, and Pac-12 champions all hold serve, I could see a scenario where just based off of that, one or two things are going to happen. Either you could see Georgia going from 1 to getting completely shut out, and they put Alabama in, even being the two-time defending champion. Or I also think that right now, I don't think Florida State, even if they run the table with as down as the ACC's been, has got the resume. I think Washington jumps them easily.
If Washington beats Oregon again, yes, they'll jump them. But that's still me. So if it plays out that way, whoever wins next week in Ann Arbor and wins the Big Ten, if Georgia loses the SEC championship game, will be the 1 seed. I think we can agree on that. At that point in time, an undefeated Big Ten champion would be the 1 seed.
I don't know. It's because Washington will have beaten Utah twice, Oregon, and USC.
They're going to get Oregon again. They're not going to get Utah a second time.
So you're going to get 2 cracks at Bo Nix, who's going to be who's the Heisman front runner. So I could see a scenario where Washington right now is sitting at 5. They run the table. I can make an argument that they're the 1.
You could, and it would be the same one I'm going to make to you now. A Big Ten champion out of those 2 teams is going to beat the number 2 or number 3 team in the country next week. And then if Iowa wins again and goes into it as a 2-loss team on the other side, they're going to be in the top 25, or they are in the top 25. So you're going to have ranked wins, and I'm going to use it from the Ohio State side. You'll have ranked wins against Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, and Iowa. Not to mention where anybody else shakes out that ends up in the poll, out of the poll, what have you. You can't really argue, because, by the way, if Utah loses, they're out. If Utah loses to Arizona, they're going to be out of the top 25.
That might be the best game of the week.
It very well might be. No offense, I think Tennessee's going to get the piss beat out of them tomorrow by Georgia. But that chaos, while it will be fun, that's going to cause real problems. And I will probably spend the week after that losing my shit. Because if we stick to the schedule, we've got next week, we've got the week after for conference championships, we got the week after that, and one more, and then you and I are done till 2024 and the Wisies.
Yeah, and then and what's going to be funny is that we're going to have the Wisies on that first night, back, and then are we actually going to be able to get the national championship in?
We'll probably have to do some of the national championship on the Wisies, because then it's that, and then we're smack in the middle of NHL, NBA, and then we got the NFL playoffs by then. And we also have very close to spring training, so we're packed for the next few weeks. But yet, in that scenario? So let me put it to you this way. Winner of next week wins the Big Ten, undefeated conference champion. Washington wins out, undefeated conference champion. Florida State wins out, undefeated conference champion. Bama beats Georgia, 1-loss conference champion. Who are you kicking out?
Florida State.
So an undefeated ACC champion will be left home. So your final 4 would be Ohio State, Bama, Georgia, and Washington.
For now, yeah, it's because Georgia will have Georgia's been number 1, and then their only loss was in the SEC title game to another top 10 team, and then Alabama. Sure, they got skunked earlier this year, but they beat the number 1 team in the country, the winner of the Big Ten, and then arguably, that you got the champion of the best conference in all of college football, which is the Pac-12 right now.
So let me ask you this question then. Texas wins the next few games and wins the Big 12 and has the win over Alabama. Does Texas have a chance to get into the playoff?
Nope.
Or win over most likely the presumptive number 1 seed in the playoff?
Nope.
See, now that's wrong in my opinion. They played Alabama head-to-head, lost one game and won a conference championship. What did they do differently than Alabama did? That's why
Go ahead.
the 12 needs to get here so bad. Texas lost the Red River game. It's the only game they lost.
I think if you've got to actually start putting things together like that, if everything shakes out the way that it does, the Pac-12, first of all, it's a down year, especially with the final year of it as is. But you look at Florida State's quality wins; they're going to beat a 5-win Florida team in their rivalry game. Miami was certainly not what we expected. Clemson is trying to get back on the come up, and North Carolina was their big one.
LSU in the season opener.
Who's a 2-3 loss team in the SEC?
This is what I'm saying, Jim. Honestly, in my opinion, this is not going to be very popular. The loser of the SEC championship game needs to be out.
I agree. I completely agree.
Because
especially if everyone else runs the table. Now, I could see a scenario where if Florida State loses along the way, let's say for whatever reason, Florida gets them next week. I don't think that's going to happen, but Texas runs out. I could see a scenario where Florida State goes from 4 and drops completely out.
I wouldn't say completely out. They'll be out of the top 10 with a loss to Florida. We got to call John. We've got to get John on here because he's going to have a better handle on this than you and I are, being as close to the game as he is. But I fear for it. And if it happens and Georgia and Bama both get in the playoff and you leave an undefeated conference champion out, the only thing you can say is the fix is in.
I think the winner of the Pac-12 is going to get in automatically, provided Oregon doesn't slip up next week in Civil War. That's another game we forgot about for next week.
Because Oregon State is good. So next week's going to be interesting.
You'd have a 2-loss Ducks beating an undefeated Washington.
The committee has already set the precedent on 2-loss conference champions getting in, and they're not going to. You had 2017 where Ohio State went in and beat the final remaining undefeated team in the country in Wisconsin, who was the 4 seed in that playoff ranking in the Big Ten championship game by multiple scores, and ended up playing the Cotton Bowl against USC, who was a 2-loss conference champion.
I'm not saying you would put Oregon in, but I mean, at that particular point, Washington losing in the conference championship game would actually end up getting shut out, and then you've really got chaos, because then you actually open the door for a Georgia a Texas to sneak in there. You've got possibly the Ohio State Michigan loser going in, which would be an absolute cocktail party joke, that you've got a 1-loss team who didn't even play in their conference title going into the 4 best teams in the country. Arguably they were, but you'd also have to figure, if the committee had any brains left before everything expanded, they'd actually use this year to get things right, and they try to get the 4 best teams, but you certainly want to make sure that you put your conference champions in first.
No, I agree with you. And that's why last year it was funny, because I was going through Facebook, and the show we did for the playoff right before New Year's, you, myself, and John, I had mentioned there were only 2 conference champions in last year's playoff. They were Georgia and Michigan. And we came very close to 2 non-conference champions playing in the national championship game.
Yeah, but also remember, TCU had run the table and then actually gotten clipped at the end in the Big 12 title. So
No,
they
yeah,
absolutely deserve to be there.
and the only loss on Ohio State's resume was to number 2 Michigan. It's not like they lost to Purdue again like they did several years ago.
Right, but but the ACC, you had what? It was Pittsburgh last year, wasn't it?
It was either Pitt or Carolina. Or
Yeah.
was it Duke?
So, yeah, but either way, the fact that we don't know that off the top of our head, it's Kansas State won the Big 12, but already had 2 losses, so they weren't getting in. The Pac-12 was a very middle of the road type conference. So, your conference winner, Utah, had 2 losses. They weren't going to get in. So they did the right thing about getting the 4 best teams in. But again, 2 of those were conference champions. One of those lost in their conference championship game, and the other one didn't even get there.
No, I agree. And as much fun as I had with Ohio State getting into the playoff last year, I'm a firm believer that conference champions should get the first swing at the playoff every time, unless there is something egregious. I don't think a 2-loss conference champion who lost to a team that was in the playoff and then a random game but had good wins should be left out. I also don't think that teams that don't qualify for their conference championship game should even be considered. But you and I don't make those decisions. So I'm going to root for, obviously I'm going to root for my team wherever they go. But it's not about, did I think they deserve to get there? No, they didn't. The only time Ohio State's...
They got there off of name recognition alone last year.
Well, they got there off of name recognition and having a Heisman finalist at quarterback.
Yeah, but let's also keep in mind that they did have 1 loss on their schedule. They didn't play in a conference championship game, and they got clocked in that loss.
Agreed. Listen, you're not going to hear me argue it. There is no argument to it. They got smoked. Things may be coming out that there was a hand in that shouldn't have been there, but that's neither here nor there. I think the 21 Ohio State team, no, because they lost to Oregon too. Never mind. They were a 2-loss team. Never mind. So what else I want to talk to you about? Something else. Oh, did you happen to see the thing I said we should react to on the show tonight?
You sent me multiple things.
This was the one, and I'll go find it right now. It was in Messenger. This was the one. I just sent you one during the commercial break too.
That one I did not see yet.
That was with Samoa Joe. It was actually quite funny. It was
sent, the just walking away. Yep.
The Kenyon Martin. No, the Kenyon Martin one is the one I sent you. That I said we should react to. Although the other one I sent you from Instagram was pretty good.
Yeah, Joe's been doing that for a while, just walking away. I think he's going to be Max's partner tomorrow night.
Did you see the SpongeBob one I sent you? Or my personal favorite, there was one on Instagram, and the caption said, "When Deshaun Watson's getting wheeled into surgery."
We're going to talk about that here in a minute.
And it's Vince McMahon going, "Come on out, you rapist." It's the gift that keeps on giving. It's Deshaun Watson jokes are the jelly of the month club, Jim.
You're a dick.
It's the gift that keeps on giving, Clark.
Ooh, I want pizza. Scrolling through Instagram, I want pizza.
Yeah, well, hallelujah, holy shit, where's the Tylenol? Oh, my God. I still cannot believe I found this one.
John Adams' drum made it to the Hall of Fame.
That's where it belongs.
Yep.
Are they still piping in the sound?
Yes.
And it's actually him, right? They
Did
didn't
you
find
see
it
the
somewhere.
video of the two kids who dressed up like Travis and Jason Kelsey for Halloween?
New news. Dude, Jason was giving his brother shit about Taylor changing the lyrics.
Yeah.
And then he goes, and then you left her dad hanging. Apparently, Monday night when Kansas City plays Philly, the parents are going to meet. The Kelseys and the Swifts are going to meet. And apparently, is she from Philly or that area? Ask your dad.
Dude, really?
I'm sorry. He knows, though, right?
She was born in West Reading.
So apparently they've been fans of his brother, of Jason, for years. You think they're in his ear, in her ear? This is the one to marry.
I doubt they're in her ear.
Jason Kelsey is Eagles royalty. You need to marry into the family. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yep.
And they could be talking about either brother there.
Yeah. So let's finish up the night before we get back into our version of the translator with
Sounds good.
With a little Cleveland flair here.
Perfect. Maybe.
After one of the best come from behind victories of the season, down 14-0 in the first 5 minutes, battled back, chipped away. Deshaun Watson has his best game as a Cleveland Brown, wills them to a walk-off win, one of 6 walk-off wins in the NFL last week. Gets the Browns to 6-3, a half game behind the Baltimore Ravens. Kind of hobbles around late in the fourth quarter. We think, okay, it's an ankle thing. Goes to get an MRI on Monday. Not only is it a high ankle sprain, there's a fracture in the shoulder, the damaged throwing shoulder. So, shoulder surgery, out for the remainder of the season.
Let's talk about the silver lining here, and that is the Cleveland Browns are not built on their offense. This is a team built on its defense. And that has not had significant injury as of yet. I know hospital wards in the protocol. Their bones are their pass rush. And it's scary good. Scary good. Having said that, and now I'm going to tip my hand a little bit here. I have been watching the highlight packages. I am probably going to listen on Sunday.
Don't say why.
I'm not going to say why.
We're going to talk about that here in a couple of minutes.
And by the way, for those of you out there watching, it is not because he's not playing. It's something far more important than that. The silver lining is this team is not the quarterback dependent. This is defensive dependent. So that's a good thing. No significant injuries on the defense. With the skill sets of DTR and Deshaun being so similar, not exact, but similar, you don't have to change the offense much. He had a full week to prepare.
Because they said he's looked a lot better in practice the last 2 days.
Yeah, so he's had a full week with the first team to prepare. I don't think they lose much. I think this is a very lucky Pittsburgh Steelers team to be 6-3 like they are.
They're still the Browns were a 1.5 point favorite on Sunday with no Watson, no Chubb, no Conklin.
Listen,
those are 3 all-pros you're missing on offense. And because of the fact that your defense is that good and you've recreated Nick Chubb in the aggregate between Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford.
Well, that and the fact that Kenny Pickett has less touchdown passes than CJ Stroud. career-wise. And I hate Pittsburgh. You know that. So I'm toying with wearing the Denzel jersey on Sunday when we do our running around. I will say this, though. I did have something very nice happen yesterday. So yesterday was Bobby's pie with my pumpkin at school. So they, parent comes in, a little snack, yada, yada. Not for nothing. He did a little sign, said, "I'm thankful for." And his teacher asked him, "Everybody under the sun." And he said, "Dada." I melted right there. I didn't have to wear the seatbelt extender in the Camry yesterday. Dude, do you even understand the party I had on the way to home from work last night? Because I went back to
doing the happy dance,
losing some of the fatness, happy dance.
This is Joe Cooper.
This needs to be an OTR segment. So let's talk about the big silver lining for Sunday, Jim, because I know you want to, and I do too. And I will let you announce why it's so significant.
Jim Donovan is back, bitches.
The voice of the Cleveland Browns is back in the booth. That's why I'm going to listen.
After a 7-week hiatus for leukemia treatment, Jim Donovan is back. Chris Rose, Andrew Siciliano, Paul Keels, and Paul McDonald last week did a fantastic job. It's just going to be so good to hear Jimmy's voice, and
it's
especially
different.
for Steelers week.
And I think that's what he had circled on his calendar the entire time.
Yep. And he'll be back on the Channel 3 newscast, the local NBC affiliate. He'll be doing that full time starting again on Sunday.
That's awesome.
On Sunday night after the game.
I'm going to have to listen now.
Jim and Nathan back together. It's not Jim and Doug, but I mean,
I was saying, what would be great is if they brought Doug Deacon in for just this game. That would be great. Speaking of our favorite announcers, can we segue into something else?
Not Gary Cohen.
Well, because Hammy's up for it too.
I think we talked about this.
We didn't. We talked about it on the phone. We didn't talk about it on the show.
Okay, we'll put the timer at 90 seconds because then we got to actually go back to gushing on Jimmy D because it's a little bit more important.
I agree. Gary Cohen and Tom Hamilton, of course, are up for the Ford Frick Award to get into the Baseball Hall of Fame. My wife doesn't know this yet, but if Gary gets in, I may be making a trip. So back to Jimmy D. Yes, the other guys did a great job. Paul Keels, who I love. You know that. I mean, that's other than when I steal my father's sign in for his cable account for the Michigan game. I prefer to listen to Buckeye football. And Paul Keels has been the soundtrack of my Saturdays for the better part of 20 some years. You have no sound. I can't hear you. Did it die? You're on again.
I might have accidentally shut it off. So Paul Keels was extremely smooth during the shutout of Arizona. But I thought Andrew Siciliano was far and away the best of the four.
Well, Siciliano calls football, though, right?
He does Rams preseason, and he's also the lead guy on Red Zone on Sundays.
That's right. Keels will never leave Columbus. He is revered. It turned off again.
Yeah, I might not have charged it long enough, or it may not have that long of a battery life. Who knows?
I tell you what, though, it looks very professional. I will give you that.
Probably dead. Probably just didn't charge it long enough.
Well, it's brand new. I mean,
you know what it was? I recorded the sports note on it and never charged it.
that would be it.
Yep.
So I think we agreed Siciliano would probably should be the heir apparent to Jim Donovan. When Jimmy decides to hang him up. So, I mean, you're closer to this than I am, obviously, with you being on the ground at home. What's everybody saying?
It's just nothing but an outpouring of love and support, for Jimmy. I already put it out there on social media. I just said simply, let's fucking go. Browns 137, black and urine 6.
I give him 3.
Yeah, considering the Squealers, Pickett sucks. They're missing 2 linebackers. And oh yeah, Minka Fitzpatrick's going to be a little bitch and not play for this game, knowing that they're going to be headhunting him. He's already been ruled out.
What a pussy.
What a bitch.
Emotional damage.
I got a feeling the first, maybe once they start the telecast, I got a feeling I'm not going to be the only one getting really emotional.
You won't be.
Jimmy.
You won't be, because I will be too. Because they'll kick off at 1 o'clock, right? Their 1 o'clock game. Normally, when they're playing, when 1 o'clock on Sundays, he's napping. So I sit where I am now, and he's next to me, and I'll play the show, and now I'm going to listen to the game. I'm so excited. I really am. The other thing, with this weekend, we learned last night, Joe Burrow's done for the year.
Yeah. The 2 Ohio starters out for the year.
That's rough. And then what happened to him last week? Can we talk about CJ for a minute, please? Just a minute. Shannon Sharp brought something up on First Take the other day, and I want to ask you your opinion on it. And it's not Stephen A. It's Uncle Shannon. So this is why I'm asking you this. With the way he's playing the position, CJ Stroud's going to be the offensive rookie of the year going away.
Right.
Shannon thinks he should be in the MVP conversation. I'm not convinced, but when you look at his numbers, there's an argument for him. Over 3,000 yards or close to it, 15 touchdowns, 1 pick or 2 picks. I mean, those are some damn good numbers.
Houston's got to make a Jacksonville-like run towards the playoffs and actually get in and possibly cause a little bit of damage for that to be feasible.
I don't disagree.
If he puts up monster numbers and they finish out of the playoffs, absolutely not.
Okay. Hold on.
Although, if you think about it, you get, I hate to say it right now, and I really hate to say it because I can't stand the guy. I got to give it to Lamar Jackson right now. I think he put a stranglehold on it after that performance last night.
He also choked away the Browns game.
How sweet was that Greg Newsome pick?
It was very sweet. It was very sweet.
Considering what? Second play from scrimmage, Watson had the same thing happen to him.
That was when I'm not going to lie. When I saw the score early, I laughed. I was like,
I was putting together my new chair. I had it on in the background.
Chair's nice, by the way.
Thank you. I'll probably be sleeping on it here in a couple hours. Although I got to put a comforter over it because since it like reclines, so here's like the backrest and then there's a seat. When it reclines back, the bar, like the fulcrum, there's next to no padding on it. So it's like when you lay down on your side or on your back, you're feeling that bar going straight into you. So you almost got to put like a pad over the top of it. But I mean, I got a comforter that I used to like stuff under the couch cushions for extra support. I could just take that and fold that into thirds, and then this way it'll actually be like an extra. It'll be like a mattress topper or mattress pad or something.
Oh, nice. And it will still look stylish.
Yes, it's in like a burgundy duvet cover. It's the old comforter that used to be on here.
The array of topics we talk about on the show are just.
Yeah, and it's actually even going to smell nicer because it's been sitting inside like one of those particle board like storage trunks for the last 6 months.
Nice.
You're going to have that wood smell to it.
Put bars of soap in there.
I've actually heard dryer sheets.
Well, yeah, but we use bars of soap in the dresser drawers. Works well.
I think I got a Bath and Body Works coupon that I can actually use to like get some of those this week.
Did you know if Bath and Body Works people see you stealing candles during the Christmas season, they just let you go?
They ran a special last week that any regular size men's care product that's like normally $16, $17, they were selling them for $5.50 a piece last week.
No, I know.
And it was like $2.50 on their hand soaps, and they said limit 20.
Yeah, one of the ladies in my office works there part-time too. So that's why I asked what stuff you had on when you came down. I was like, oh, I have the hookup. Well, James, unless you have another topic for us, I think it might be time for you and I to engage.
Band practice.
Would you shut up and just push the button already? No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
It's the YZ translator on the Wise Guys Sports Show.
I'm forever unclean!
You know, I'm actually wondering if that even played, considering I don't have a microphone plugged in. So I'm going to go to the old school one for the last few minutes.
No, he heard it because he laughed. He heard the Steve Carell, the no, God, please, no. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're here again. It is the Wise Guys doing,
Rodney Ruxin.
Nice. So we're doing the YZ translator for Gemini tonight. And normally I go first. So I think I'm going to go first. And James, your first name in the YZ translator is Tony Petiti.
I have to look this up.
He's the Big Ten commissioner.
Okay. And a bang-up job you've been doing this year.
That's wonderful.
Bigger imposter, Tony Petiti or George Santos?
Chris Everett.
OnlyFans, really? And Botox? Oh, Carell had a field day with him last night.
Did he?
It was one of his better monologues in months, even going back before the strike.
Oh, not Carell. Colbert.
Oh, yeah, Colbert. My bad.
We were on the no thing before. I get it. So what do you got for me there, bud?
hopefully you actually saw the news from earlier today about a certain individual having a tattoo needing to be covered up.
No, I didn't.
Okay, then I actually will go to my backup option.
No.
Michael,
Who is it?
go to ESPN. And there should be something that says Invisible Ink in one of the headlines.
Get out of here.
So, in that regard, Michael, your first name on the second edition of the YZ Translator tonight, LaMelo Ball.
Feastables on the clit jersey wasn't enough. His middle name is really LaFrance. What the fuck was his father on? LaMelo LaFrance.
LaMelo the France Ball. Boy, am I glad you didn't give me this one.
Why? Do we have to go to the typing? That's what she said.
Shut up.
That's what she said.
Oh, we're going to hell.
They're in the video game as of next week. I'm happy.
Are they really?
Yep.
Oh, that's right. You were telling me. All right. James, your second and final name in the YZ Translator. And I'm going to lob one over to plate for you. Jim Donovan.
The voice of my childhood, pure and simple, the GOAT.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Gibb Shanley, Casey Coleman, Nev Chandler, they're all GOATs in our eyes. It's especially for me growing up. But I've worked with Jim Donovan before. It's going to be so nice to be able to see him back. We know his time is limited, and this is unfortunately this is a little bit of a cold shower. Splashing some cold water on your face because you're going to have to start addressing this here before too long. And we talked about this on the show a few weeks ago when he initially stepped away. But sometimes just all becomes right with the world, and that's going to happen on Sunday.
I agree with you.
Regardless of unless they lose this game by 40 points. I don't want them going out there and laying an egg with this, which they typically tend to do with the Steelers. Go out there, and it's not even win this one for Jimmy. Just go out there and beat the piss out of Pittsburgh.
I agree. And I don't think they're going to lay an egg this week.
And let Jimmy enjoy this one.
Yeah, I think they're going to be fine. I think they win this game pretty easily. What do you got for me? And then let's preview next week.
Michael, along the same lines that we talked about earlier this week, you and I privately, your second name in the YZ Translator for tonight, he's been rumored to be on the move, but there's also a secondary story that came out about him as well. Ryan Tannehill.
Really? The mayo and the fucking coffee beat me out? Eats a banana with the peel on. Can't even do it. If I was him, I'd quit. But what exactly happened with Tannehill now?
Well, there's a very strong rumor that he's asking for his release because he doesn't want to back up Will Levis. But there's also a secondary part to that story, that there were reports that came out that the only reason he's backing Will Levis instead of Malik Willis is because of Will Levis being white.
That's bullshit. That's clickbait, stupid journalism.
And take a wild guess where I read it. Deadspin.
You are the journalist of the two of us. If anything, if we ever did play-by-play for a game, you would be the play-by-play guy. I would be the color analyst.
Gorilla brain.
Yes.
Will you stop?
Harry Doyle.
Monty.
No, because Monty didn't say much.
Fly ball.
Caught. Yeah, but I'm not in the bag. I gave up the sauce.
I can't even. So Deadspin said he basically called him a racist.
Pretty much, but...
Or how about he's backing Will Levis because Will Levis isn't a fucking piece of garbage as a player like Malik Willis is.
That's the other aspect of that, is that they kind of underline, is that Will Levis is a lot more pro-ready. Malik Willis, it was a train wreck. Even now, granted, Willis was thrown in there under really poor circumstances, and Tannehill did have a really, really inauspicious start to this season before the Titans pulled the trigger on Will Levis. But keep in mind that Tannehill still had a better touchdown to interception ratio, and when they lost 4 in a row before they made the benching, he still had a better touchdown to interception ratio and was at a 65% completion percentage in that 4-game clip.
Yeah, Tennessee's got more problems than quarterback. They spent too many years running Derrick Henry into the ground. And they
the
really...
Hopkins thing flamed out very quickly.
Yeah, it's Tennessee is a shit show. The only thing holding them together is Mike Vrabel right now.
And that's... Who's more surprisingly on the hot seat, Mike Vrabel or Bill Belichick?
Mike Vrabel.
Do you think the Patriots make a move from Belichick?
I think Mr. Kraft will tell Bill, you've got a choice. Be the coach or be the GM. And if you want to be the GM, I want to bring in a coach. If you want to be the coach, I'm going to bring in a GM.
Yeah, but he's never going to admit it because the kind of guy that he is. But Bill wants...
True, but...
He wants the record.
Yeah, and...
But here's the thing, though. If he gets the record, he's going to want to do it in New England because he's already seen kind of like how it would taint his career if he went elsewhere and got it, much like, Emmett putting the record way out of reach with Arizona, or Tom going to New England and getting another Super Bowl.
No, I got you. Hey, speaking of Super Bowl quarterbacks, did you see who was on a plane to Cleveland today?
Joe Flacco, although I was on the drive home and they actually said that it is not likely he is going to be signed. They're just bringing in a bunch of talent to work out.
I don't blame him. I mean, you kind of have to at this point in time. If you don't have full confidence in DTR, which I understand why they don't.
I don't think it's not that. I don't think that they don't have full confidence. I think it's right now more of an emergency situation because if he goes down, you got PJ Walker. But if something happens where one's ineffective or one goes down or both of them are completely ineffective, you're still in the playoff hunt. You go 3-5 the rest of the way out. That's 9 wins. That could get you in, as bad as the AFC is this year.
That's true. It's that's very true.
You play
I don't
4
know.
and 4, that's 10 wins. You're almost assured of the fifth seed right now. Let's break it down very quickly. The Bills are not where they were. They're going to be in. They're probably going to get in, but they're going to be a back end team.
Yeah.
Miami is starting to kind of pull away in that division a little bit. New England sucks. The Jets are going to fall off. The Ravens are easily the class of the AFC right now, at least in the regular season. You're going to have at least 2, if not 3, out of the AFC North get in. The Jaguars are starting to make their push a little bit, but don't sleep on the Texans. The Colts are still trash, and then we just talked about the Titans, and then the Broncos are middle of the road right now, but they're playing with house money. The Raiders are playing with house money. The Chargers are dramatically underachieving. Kansas City's going to win that by default. There's a lot. This is something that I would dare say, if Deshaun Watson does not have this surgery, if he does not break that shoulder, they not only chase down Baltimore and win the AFC, but they end up probably being the 2 or the 3.
Yeah, no, I agree. And what they're saying now is that you could see theoretically all 4 teams from the AFC North in the playoffs.
I mean, Cincinnati took a dramatic hit with that loss last
That's
night.
rough.
They're basically, you could start throwing dirt on them right now. It's with their options, because they've dramatically underachieved, and now you actually have to throw their quarterback out with the bathwater.
Yeah. And I don't even know who their backup is.
It doesn't even matter at this
Doesn't
point.
matter.
I think the last 2 Cincinnati backups I remember were Jeff Driscoll and AJ McCarron, better known as Mr. Catherine Webb.
Yeah.
The guy who actually was the most highly coveted backup quarterback in the NFL, based solely off of his rocket wife.
Was it Musburger who kept bringing her up? Thought so. So lots to go with the NFL. And of course, let's talk about it. Next Friday night, November the 24th, 9 p.m. here on the Wise Guys channel, we will preview the 118th playing of the game between that team up north, the University of Michigan, and the Ohio State University. Buckeyes and Wolverines from Ann Arbor the next day at noon. Joel and Gus on the call. And a lot of college football next Friday. I tell you what.
We're gonna probably talk we're gonna go a little, Buckeye Notre Dame, Buckeye Michigan heavy, but we're gonna basically dabble into every trophy game that EA Sports would give out if you were playing a season.
Oh, absolutely. Except the Illabuck, because they don't do that anymore.
Yeah, but that's also very early in the season. We're talking like end of year trophy games.
Yeah, so we will hit the Apple Cup. We will hit Clean Old Fashioned Hate. We will hit the Crosstown Rivalry. We'll hit Civil War. We'll hit the
Egg
Iron Bowl.
We'll hit
Egg
them
Bowl.
all.
So we'll hit them all. Obviously, our focus will be with the dynamic between the two of us. Will be Michigan, Ohio State, which honestly, for the 3rd year in a row, is now the biggest game of the year.
Do we actually put? We said that we had something in mind for the Wiseies, but next week, do we also start a new tradition? Do we do some sort of an informal bet, like when mayors bet on a championship?
No.
Oh yeah, because you haven't had bragging rights for 2 years.
No. I think what should happen is that the next episode, the first segment, is the other taking the lumps like we have the last 2 years. If you remember the first time we previewed it and did a Wise Guy show, you did your rendition of The Night Before Christmas. And last year hammered me like a nail. I think that's the perfect thing to do. Adding a wager to it would not be a good idea because one of us will say something stupid and then have to do it. We're not the most mature on the planet, James.
Trying to think of what I've actually either got to pay in advance or ask Steph to do. So this way, when you take your, does Publix sell, those cushions that you sit on, when you have hemorrhoids and
Nah, Walmart does.
yeah, because you got the Walmart down. By the way, you still owe me sandwiches.
Well, if I can FedEx you the sandwiches, I will.
Yeah.
So that's coming up next week. And of course, we're going to start teasing it now in the first episode of 2024. 2024, Jim, will be the second annual YZ Awards, where we will have a new category this year.
Do we want to say it?
We will be inducting the first member of the Wise Guys the Wisey's Hall of Fame at the Wisey's in January. Date to be determined.
We have some ideas.
We have someone in mind.
We don't know. We don't know if we're going to announce finalists because they typically don't for things like this. But there will be a Wisey Hall of Fame inductee going in.
We're working on the logo for it. I have enlisted the wife's help because she is far more crafty than I am. So yeah, I think
that's because she's cheesy.
But I like cheese.
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
And that one was shit because, man, did that one miss the mark.
Do you know what, though? She said that to me when we first started dating. She said she was cheesy, and I said, I like cheese, and it won me a lot of points. So every time I hear that, I have to say it. I am, hold on.
Cheese.
I am, as you say, contractually obligated.
Did you ever see the Stephen Lynch special from Kalamazoo?
No.
Thanks for showing up, fuckface.
Did you? I have to watch the Matt Rife special.
My sister-in-law he was in Cleveland like last week, and my sister-in-law went.
I hear he's good. He's good. The one from Iowa, when they give him the gifts, did you see that?
Not yet.
Okay.
He's very hit and miss with me. You know who I've been watching a lot of? I can't think of her name. She's a Jewish comic that does a lot of audience interaction.
Mrs. Maisel?
No. I'll send you some of her stuff. It's fucking hilarious.
So
She's
Matt
a
Rife,
middle-aged Jewish woman who's a lesbian.
send it to me.
It writes itself.
It really does. So Matt Rife is in Iowa, and he gets a gift bag from very attractive older women in the front row. And the shirt says, I came to Iowa, and all I got was a blowjob and cookies. He proceeds to go, I've never canceled a show early, but I think you understand. And then he legit had chocolate chip cookies in the bottom of the thing. So he pulls out a big thing of cookies. He takes a bite. One, this is perfect. My blowjob's going to have to be really good to top this. Fucking dead. Fucking dead.
I was scrolling through Instagram a few minutes before we went live. How did you never tell me that there was a thing between Deadpool and Fred Savage about Nickelback?
Because it's when they remastered Deadpool 2 and re-released it around Christmas a few years ago, the whole thing of it is Deadpool reading it to Fred Savage, who's tied to the bed like in The Princess Bride.
Wearing his Bears jersey with no number on it and everything.
Yes.
And for those of you who have been with us, the person on the right side of your screen is a gigantic Nickelback fan that has seen them 3 times. and now admitted that on this show for a fourth time. Willingly.
Got one more to go.
One for the thumb?
Yes, one for the thumb. So, James, I think we can sign off for the evening. We will see you guys same bat time, same bat channel next week on the 24th as we preview the game.
You're doing another Casey Kasem reference because he was the Riddler.
No, he wasn't.
In the original,
Cesar Romero. Oh no, it was Frank
Casey
Gorshin.
Kasem.
It was Frank Gorshin.
There's a Frank Caliendo skit where he actually he was the voice of the Riddler in the old cartoon.
Yeah, he did the voice of the Riddler in the when the Batman did the crossover with Scooby-Doo.
Caliendo, one of his first stand-up specials, and it was on YouTube somewhere. It's like, I cannot tell you my identity or what I'm planning, but the answer lies in a song from 1974.
This is Casey Kasem. American Top 40.
It's still weird. That's like one of the weirdest things, like during non-football season, getting up and like going out for lunch or like a late breakfast and like turning on and actually hearing top 40s on Sunday morning.
Well, it's Seacrest now, right?
I mean, a lot of the times I'll listen to like country radio and I'll actually hear, some of that, but it's but yeah, it's I know the premise is still the same.
Yeah. So we will see you guys next Friday. And I will be wearing a lot of red.
There's a Kool-Aid joke in here somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.
See you next week, guys.